Good afternoon. Today we're going to get into the 13th chapter of the Gospel according to Luke. And in this chapter we start to see the tension between Jesus and the powers that be, those in authority, begin to rise and become more intense. About midway through the chapter, we have this story of Jesus healing a woman who had been bent over for over a decade. And he heals her, but it's the Sabbath. And so the leaders of the synagogue say there are 6 days in which work ought to be done. Come on those days and be cured, and not on the Sabbath. Now notice they say that to the people, not to Jesus. They're trying to keep the people in control. But Jesus rebukes them and says, "You hypocrites, do not each of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or his donkey from your manger and lead it away to give it water. And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan bound for 18 long years, be set free from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" When he said this, all his opponents were put to shame, and the entire crowd was rejoicing at all the wonderful things that he was doing. We have to remember that the Sabbath was created as a day of rest for recuperation. And the commandment for the Sabbath is that not just you rest, but your whole household, your servants, your animals, the whole 9 yards. And it's for a rest to bring about, for rejuvenation, to bring about life so that life can return through rest. And so Jesus healing on the Sabbath is appropriate because he is enabling this woman to live life. He's bringing her back to life by curing her stoop and straightening her back. The Pharisees in particular were pushing for a very strict piety amongst the people, but their reasons for doing it was their piety was in pursuit of power. It was not in pursuit of righteousness. It was not about creating an environment where life could happen. And Jesus is bringing life to the common people. And we've seen throughout history that the powers that be do not like people who bring about life for the common people. And so that begins to be more intense. We even see close to the end of the chapter, some Pharisees come to Jesus, and it seems like they're helping him out. And they say, "Get away from here, leave, for Herod wants to kill you." They're trying to pass the blame over to Herod, but it's really just a shell game. They're just trying to get Jesus not to come to Jerusalem and not to preach to the people, and say that it's Herod that doesn't want that to happen. It probably does, but it probably Herod doesn't want that to happen either. But the Pharisees are just using that. They're not being really sincere or trying to protect Jesus' life. And Jesus says, "Go tell that fox that I'm going to be about curing people today and tomorrow and the next day. And I'm going to do my business." And he's just going to keep going and keep plugging. And then right at the end of the chapter it says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing." Jesus is speaking in the voice of the prophets of old, of Isaiah and Jeremiah, and those great figures from Jewish history who centralized Jerusalem as the pinnacle of Jewish faith and life, and wanting to protect it and wanting to protect the people there, and calling them to repentance and calling them to a new way of being in the hopes of bringing about righteousness and bringing about life. And the old prophets are old, are not listened to. Isaiah and Jeremiah, neither of them were. And so Jesus knows what's coming. He knows what he has to say. He knows what his job is. And he knows what's going to happen to him as well. So that's a little snippet of what's going on in chapter 13. Just some thoughts. Again, if you have thoughts that you want to go into conversation with, I'm open and welcome to your comments, eager to hear them. And tomorrow we'll get into chapter 14. I hope you have a gracious afternoon, and God's peace be with you.